Hello, we're back. We're doing something a little bit different. So I'm Shane Griffiths,
Jeremy Holmes
from Digital Taunton. Just wanted to say hello to everyone, and this is going to be our new home now, our new little YouTube studio for the foreseeable future until COVID gets a grip on whatever COVID decides to do. And I think what we decided is that over the next few weeks and maybe a couple of months, that we'll start offering, content in a slightly different way, right? Start recording podcasts and videos instead of doing all the event stuff, which
is great. It would be fantastic to do the event stuff, but obviously now
it's just
not possible.
There's no point just fighting it, right? So I think what we wanted to do is start recording some videos and just hanging out.
Speaking to entrepreneurs,
and just
founders,
absolutely, just start really getting an insight of what people are doing, and hopefully we can offer our community some interesting content and
have some fun at the same time.
Just sometimes the live event stuff is so stressful, and I don't think there's a huge appetite for the live stuff at the moment. I mean, everyone's doing webinars, right? So
it's competing for people's time on the screen,
and time
right?
is precious. So we just thought we would record some stuff and get it out there, and hopefully it would be of some use. So this is our little sort of tester, our sort of prototype episode, but
really exciting.
It's cool. It's really, really good.
And here's the thing, right? The master of thinking big, the creator, almost the author of Thinking Big,
The man himself.
Yeah, and he's our guest. I'm really excited to introduce Stuart Baldwin, who hopefully I've got this right, is a global, international speaker, international coach, and mentor of mine, supplier of services of mine, and a general good friend of mine as well.
Hey Stuart, how you doing?
I'm great. Good to see you both.
Hey, so appreciate your patience with us as we're setting up all this crazy amounts of cabling. It's amazing what goes into just a couple of cameras and two microphones and two idiots on a couch. There's a lot that goes into it, and a big hello to Glenn behind the scenes as well, managing everything. But good to have you on board, and thank you so much for agreeing to be kind of our first guest.
And thank you for your patience as well.
I know.
In true spirit, we're only an hour and a half late, right?
That just literally sums us up, doesn't it? We're looking good.
Yeah.
So how's things on your side, Stuart? Whereabouts in the world are you?
I live in southwest Wales, on a beach, just on the edge of the Gower Peninsula, for anyone who knows it. So summer has been fabulous. Lots of surfing, kite surfing, fun time on the beach. And the cool thing about working from home more is you're here more to do those things. There's plenty of upsides to this period of time.
So why don't we kick things off by just maybe in your words summarizing, what it is you do, how do you pay for surf wax, and what is it you do?
Well, Jeremy's setup was beautiful, and if international means that I've been on holiday to Spain, then I'm in.
Well, I'm international then as well, definitely.
No, but he's right. We, myself and a team that includes some of the guys in Jeremy's team, deliver speeches, deliver training workshops to leaders all over the world with companies that are corporate like Deloitte and Virgin and AXA and the BBC, and with companies that are entrepreneurial and medium-sized and growing like Jeremy's. And Jeremy and I have worked together for, I think, maybe 6 or 7 years now, and it's been one of the best experiences of my working life, working with the Claims Consortium Group. It's brilliant. It's so much fun. Yeah, no, really. I mean, to the extent that the people that also train the product that I created are Jeremy's people. We've worked so deeply together that his training team, led by Rob Chilcott, are so well versed in this thing that I created that I thought I would only ever be the person who could communicate it, that Jeremy's guys can communicate it as well. So that's what we do.
Yeah, and Rob is he's been a speaker.
He's spoken
at DT,
on Digital Talk,
and he's been.
And actually, you know what? I joke, but I can definitely agree with that. I guess I would consider myself a friend of the CCG family, and it is very much within the DNA of the organization around the philosophies around the Think Big product, if you like. It's very much ingrained in a lot of what you do. And even just talking to Jeremy, when it's just literally us hanging out, I quite often get the sound bites, and also like when he's offering me advice and stuff, and around the North Star, and these are things that I feel like I'm if there was like a certification for Live Big, I reckon I'm maybe 40% there and getting my qualification, because through Rob and Jeremy, I've heard bits.
You got secondhand Live Big is what you got.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, look, I've had the fortunate experience of first of all, when I heard you speak on stage, honestly, I was at a regular conference, and the speakers were just pretty regular. And you get to a stage of the day where you just end up looking at your phone, doing some emails because the talks were a little bit boring. Then all of a sudden, I had to put the phone down. This guy was on the stage, and it was just like, just electric. Everything it was almost evangelicist, right? The way you were speaking. And I'm like, whoa, hold on a second. You're speaking my language. It's about our people. It's about engagement. It's about our leaders. And I thought, this guy is awesome. So I then spent some time Googling him, stalking him a little bit. Pitching you to actually come and do some services for us. And effectively, I suppose, and tell me if this is wrong, but I suppose you take leaders, help give them the set of tools to help them have the people that report into them be the very best versions of themselves, right?
It absolutely does, Jeremy. And as you were saying all of that, I was kind of thinking, where does this come from for me? And I quit a really great career to go do this originally, like 12, 13 years ago. And it's because it comes from within. I'm driven by a belief that human beings, all of us, me included, have more potential than we're realizing. We get in our own way. We think in ways that drag us down. We operate and behave and strategize in ways that are suboptimal. We can be happier, do more, go further. And that when leaders choose that their job is to develop that in their people, the result of that is how people feel at work, engagement. But then you've got to make that real, right? So really what we teach is a set of skills. They're a blend of mindset skills like optimism and managing beliefs, and strategy skills like having North Star, as you said, Shane, having focus, having goals, having strategy, being able to take action. And that's that blend of managing ourselves internally and managing ourselves externally that allows us to show up the best version of ourselves in life and allows leaders to bring out the best in their people. And my obsession's been kind of being driven by this big idea, this almost, as Jeremy says, evangelical feeling of, there's something here. And then trying to make it practical and real. And then, as you said, Shane, when you're inside a claims consortium group, hopefully you get the grittiness of it, which, as Jeremy knows, is one of my favorite words, because there's then a bunch of tools. How do we do that? What does that look like? What's the tool that drives optimism? What's the tool that drives coaching? What's the tool that drives goal setting? And if we can get those embedded in our lives and in our companies, then we can't help but achieve engagement, performance, energy inside those worlds. Exercise is a good example. We some of us love exercise. We all know it benefits us, but we still got to keep showing up and practicing the exercise, which is why we like to say about work like this, that it's a practice. We're always just getting better at coaching. We're always just getting better at mindset. We're always just getting better at reading someone's underlying motivations and emotions. We're always just getting better at tuning into our sense of purpose and identifying when we're in line and out of line with it. At saying no to the things we shouldn't do and yes to the things we should do. At being creative and inventive about finding new routes forward. There's a set of things that, however you articulate it, are things that allow us to make the most of our lives, but also nicely allow companies to make the most of the human capital that exists within the business.
So Stuart, how did all this come about? Like, how did you come up with this whole idea, right, around Live Big?
Yeah. Well, in 2003, I think I was 28 years old, and I'd just been given my dream job. I was put in charge of a set of radio stations for Leeds. And I had everything I thought I wanted. I had that job, I had a Porsche and a penthouse and a pop star friends and an amazing girlfriend, but I was failing and I was miserable. And I'd been parachuted into that job from Hull, where I'd been a big success. But anyone who's ever been to Hull knows our bosses in London didn't want to go up there to check up on me. So they never saw my screw-ups. All they saw was my successes. And Leeds was a lot harder. The team was older. The station was different. The marketplace was different. They'd had decades of failure. And I was making bad decisions. I put a breakfast show on the air that everybody hated, including me. I was trying to tell my team to do the things that had worked in Hull. Do it like this, do it like this. But they weren't listening and they didn't believe in me. And they were looking at me like I was leading them over a cliff. And in my head, faster and faster, all these thoughts: you can't do this, you're failing, you're screwing this up, you're no good at this. And it's probably the closest I've ever come in my life to depression. Wow. And at that time, my partner, who was from Hull, she was pretty blunt. And one day I'd been working in the flat that we were doing up, and that was the only respite I got from the really stressful job I was in. And she thought I would be in a better mood because I'd not been at work that day, but I wasn't. And after me whinging for another 20 minutes, she just snapped. And she said, "I have had it with this shit."
Yep, I get that a lot.
Knock it off, sort yourself out.
Yep.
And she broke my pattern.
Right.
And she was like, "Oh, she's right, I've got to fix this."
Yeah.
So I set out on a journey to rediscover lessons I'd learned and forgotten, to read every book I could on psychology and personal growth and leadership, to attend as many courses as the company would send me on. I got a coach and a mentor, and I gate crashed lectures. And over time, I started to learn things about myself and how to operate me that started to make me happier and better and more effective. And because what I was learning, I was so fascinated by, I couldn't help but want to teach it to people. And you know what it's like, Jeremy, especially when you're the boss of a company, your people have to listen to you, right? So, well, technically.
But do you know what though? I've got to say, right, the skill set that you've certainly instilled into me, right? And maybe this is the wrong thing to say, right? At work, it's phenomenal. It works really well, and people listen to me, and actually, I feel like we have this great communication. When I get home, though, this won't mean anything, but I try the 4 questions, right? It just ends up in my face. Try those powers. So I don't know. It doesn't work.
No, I'm with you. I have the same experience. I like when my partner, she's doing something I think that's not quite how I want it to go. I try coaching her. All I get is, "Stop using that stupid voice."
Yeah. I know what you're doing.
But when I was at work, originally, I started to be able to teach the people that worked for me the things I was learning, and something interesting started to happen. They started to show up more engaged, more excited. They started to take risks that they hadn't taken before. And we started to get results from that. Audiences started to go up, profit started to go up, and I hadn't changed anything I was doing. I wasn't making better decisions, but what I was doing was, instead of telling my people what to do, I was empowering their greatness. And I realized something that changed the rest of my life. I realized that this is leadership. This is what it looks like. Empowering the greatness in others, in the way they think and the way they behaved. And after a while of doing that, a couple of years of making the radio stations really work like that, I realized that this is where my passion was, and I had to quit what had been my dream job to go and bring this to the world.
Wow. And it's amazing because you can hear the passion there and how long you've been doing it.
Yeah, no,
every
you
single
feel
time you've delivered courses within our business, that passion exudes, and it's kind of that's part of what you buy into, right? That belief and that passion. The simple question is, how has COVID-19 affected your business, and what are you doing to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I think we've all got these war stories now, haven't we?
Yeah. And the scars to prove it, and
we've got these remember March stories.
The good old days.
Yeah. So I remember it was, I can't remember what the date was. I should look it up, but it was a Monday. I remember that. And I was just about to go and do a piece of work that I'd been building up to for months, and I was really excited about, in Zurich with Deloitte, with the partnership team of Deloitte for Zurich. It was probably one of the most, everyone who was in the room was $1 million plus salary person. Wow. They were really tough to work with. We'd already done one session and they loved it. And this was set up for a big transformation. And I was really excited about it. And I was supposed to fly on the Wednesday, and it was a Monday. And I got the call from my client saying, all travel canceled for Deloitte. So we weren't going to do that. And then by the end of the day, every piece of work I had for the next 6 months had disappeared out of the diary.
You had something booked in with us as well, didn't you?
Yeah. Yeah, we had loads of stuff in. And within a day, everything had gone. And you knew it was coming, but it went. And at first, and we've all got our versions of this story, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
At first, I was like, okay, so maybe this will be a rest, or maybe now's the time to record the video learning program. But quite quickly, as you started to watch the news and talk to people, you realized that people were scared and confused. And this was an emotional thing that people were going through. And as Jeremy well knows, there's a piece of the work that I teach on optimism. And it's very pragmatic, very, very practical, really practical. And it's not positive thinking bullshit. It's get gritty. Here's your reality. Don't worry about what you can't change. Focus on what you can. Deal with it, you know? And I started to, from within, go, I got to share this. I got to share this. And I was like, well, how the hell do you share it? And my mentor had just done a webinar, first one on Zoom. And I was like, I watched it and I was like, okay, there's something there, right? And the cool thing about it, one of the cool things about this time is just how many connections you go back to, right? So me and him started talking every couple of days, and my best mate, who's also in training, we're going, how do you do this? How does it work? So I put on my first webinar. I thought I'll share some optimism thinking for 45 minutes. Maybe it'll help people. It's free. We'll just help people. And I didn't understand you can only get 100 people in the room. So it was just full. It was full.
We've never had that problem. Yeah. All right, Stuart, stop showing off.
So we put it on again, and like 200 with, you know, the bigger license, and like 200 people showed up. Not because it's me, but because that message was needed then.
Yeah, people needed to hear it.
That's powerful. There, 200 people.
And I made a video and put it on YouTube. I'd never shared this content outside of people who were paying for it, really. You know, and there's a lot of thinking in my game that goes, don't share your content because then someone can nick it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't care. This is needed. Let's just share. But the cool, and then after that, I started doing a webinar every couple of weeks because it was, you know, gave me meaning. But also what that meant, of course, was that clients saw it and went, oh, that kind of works.
Yeah.
And I got better at it.
Yeah. And just thinking about it, I mean, you know, kudos to you because Stuart did a lot of stuff for us. As you say, free webinars, putting on for our people to tune into.
Yeah.
I think that was a pretty smart move, actually. I think.
Well, it's not a number of years ago. I don't know, maybe 8 years ago or something. My business was struggling, and I was. I knew what I had was good, but I was kind of scrabbling a bit, going, "How do I get a client? How do I make more money? How do I do more thing?" And I was like, maybe I shouldn't be doing this. You know, this is too hard. And then I remembered, like, oh, you can't do anything else. You know, you couldn't do anything. This is what you're supposed to be doing. You know this. And if this is what you're supposed to be doing, then just serve and everything else will follow. And that doesn't mean you don't commercialize.
No, of course.
But the first principle is to serve.
Yeah.
And so this time really sparked that in me. And I was like, just serve. So as well as the free webinars for everybody, for people that I love and companies that have been very kind to me over the years, like Claims Consortium Group, who were going through their own significant challenge, I was like, how can I help?
Yeah.
You know, just show up and give. And that comes back. And you're not looking for it to come back, but it comes back.
You get invited onto awesome podcasts and YouTube channels like this, right?
Yeah, right. You know, won't be long before our YouTube channel is just mega famous, right? And
but this is also one
it
of the
all started right here, right now, today, and you're with us on the journey.
One of the cool things about this time is you can do this, can't you?
Yeah.
You know, if someone said, "Can you come to Taunton for a 1 hour recording of a podcast?" You know,
that's
and
true.
it was 4 hours, 5 hours round trip driving, you probably can't do that, but you can do it. So this is amazing, isn't it? You know, there's so much good stuff that's come out of it. And as I started to do it more and more and more, and doing it for free was a really good idea because it meant I got good at it fast, whereas everybody else wasn't doing it so much.
Yeah.
You kind of went, oh, what are the lessons? What are the cheat sheets of this? And we realized some stuff. It's like, oh, if you're good in person, you're good online.
Yeah.
But there's some different modality here. There's some things you can't do and some extra things you can do. Like I was making speeches for companies in the early months who needed optimism. It's like 500 people, and I could get chat box responses and polling responses from 500 people.
Yeah.
But you can't do that very easily in an auditorium. You can do it, but not as easily as you can on Zoom.
On the flip side, right, in an auditorium, if you're stumbling a little bit and people are a little bit bored, it's unlikely they'll get up and go. On a webinar, if the moment they're bored, they can just press the
disappear.
button and go.
Yeah.
So, these were some of the other big lessons. Like we started off by saying, I did a podcast for my mentor, actually, a webinar for my mentor on purpose. And he's a few steps ahead of me in the game of it. And I was like, what's your feedback? And he was like, more interactivity. Don't go past 6 minutes without interactivity. Every 6 minutes interactivity. And now our rule of thumb is every 3 minutes interactivity.
Well, I mean,
Just
that's kind of relevant for what we were doing with Digital Taunton in our previous events when COVID happened, because our physical events were so successful, we just assumed that we would copy exactly the same format and that would work, and that we would just have an intro, a sponsor, a couple of speakers, and we would just deliver that on YouTube, and it would be very well received. And actually the reality was that it wasn't actually that well received. And I think engagement was the missing ingredient, is because when people come to our physical events, one of the key reasons they're there is to meet friends and hang out and have a drink, and obviously, you know, when you're doing it online, you have to fill that void with something else. And we were just delivering, well, not even 60 minutes, more like 120 minutes of just content. And I think that the stats sort of showed that there was just a huge drop off after like 30 minutes. And it was like, okay, maybe
we certainly didn't have that view of doing something interactive every three. Well,
no, we didn't. No, but
all,
if we were to do something, it might have.
We did a bit of Q&A, but we certainly didn't have that every few minutes. You need to do something.
Well, there's some easy principles. There's some easy principles that you start to mine. You know, and in the field of content, the easy principles are interactivity every 3 to 6 minutes, let's say, but also light and shade. You know, you need to go from I'm speaking to camera to I'm using a flip chart to here's some slides to here's some video to you're in a breakout room. You know, you need changes, pace, and it creates pace. And there's two great stats that I learned early on from my best buddy who we did some training inside Google on how to deliver through the screen. You know, and some of it is about body language. You know, and so there's 3 lovely pieces of research that we were playing with. So when I deliver now, I stand back so you can see my hands, and I'm stood up because that helps my energy connect. But the first piece of research is from TED, you know, the TED Talks, guys.
Yeah, I love those.
Yep.
So they researched a lot of their talks and found that the best talks, I think the top 20, had double the hand gestures than all the rest of them.
Really? That's
hand gestures are so important. You know, I can let you know that I want you to slow down or that I'm trying to control you. I can open you up to ideas. I can let you know that I'm.
It's really weird because as he was doing that, I felt.
I just want to do this now.
Yeah.
Well, that's a power pose, right? Tony Blair, thumb of power. You know, if you're landing a point home.
Okay.
Well, the research on from TED was first of all about the hand gestures, but then also they had a different group of people score just the first 7 seconds. And they scored them pretty similar to the other group who'd scored the whole thing. Then they had them score the first 7 seconds without the sound on. And they scored that pretty similar too. So the reveal was that it mattered a lot more how you were than what you said. And it didn't matter what the sound was, it was how your body language was connecting. So it's not that content isn't important, content is king. I always believe that. And then there were 2 lovely bits of stats coming out of Google, not to land you with too much stuff, but these are quick. One was that people were 40% less likely to take an action from a virtual meeting than they were an in-person meeting.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
There's no skin in the game, not human.
Yeah,
So we got to make it more human. That means you got to up the game in terms of connectivity. And then thirdly, a pause starts to get awkward after 5 seconds in person, starts to get awkward after 2 seconds virtually.
2 seconds pause.
Yeah, you need pace, you need energy.
Don't, I'm really awkward. Well, you know, that is actually, you know, that's kind of tips around delivering content that you just don't hear about. You know, that's really, really interesting. And I think, you know, I do a lot of stuff because I run a remote business. So even before COVID, I was doing business with my clients all over Zoom. And I would like to think that I was fairly proficient in, you know, communicating via cameras and microphones, but actually I think COVID has forced me to really up my game and look at everything a bit differently, and actually hearing kind of feedback like that and tips and stuff could really help anyone looking to, just because it's not just about delivering webinars or selling consultancy, it's just general interaction online now, right? Everyone has to embrace technology. It's, you know, the whole COVID has brought it all forward like 5 years at least now to a lot of people and a lot of businesses.
Well, let me ask you guys, because I think it's a fun question. I've been saying as a provocation, the era of the rookie mistake is over. You know, It's no longer acceptable to be rubbish through this technology.
No, it's true.
You know, we've had long enough now to know. So let me ask you guys, because I think it's fun. What are some of the rookie mistakes that you've made when you're starting out, or some of the rookie mistakes that you see other people make?
I could go all day on this. So I am known to be a, you know,
prima donna.
I am a bit of a diva when it comes to this kind of stuff. You know, my home office does have, you know, a big light, a microphone, a camera, and obviously people who I'm talking to probably just have a laptop. But, you know, to reel off a bunch of them, key one I see a lot is when people's laptops are too sort of bent back. So the view is just like their double chin and their nose. Yeah, one of those, yeah.
So without saying any names, a bit like the call we were on this morning where you could see up,
yeah.
you could see the nostril hair.
Yeah,
It's
you
so
know,
funny.
and you've got, you know, a 20.
That's the look.
And you know, you're talking to someone on a 27-inch monitor, and you've just got this big face and nose, and you've got the angle where you see a couple of chins, and it's like, oh, that's how I'm going to start my Tuesday morning. That's fantastic. Other ones that bug me, lighting. You know, it doesn't cost a lot just to put a light on. You know, and just, you know, people sat in dark rooms. The amount of people through Digital Taunton, but also just in day-to-day business, I'm talking to people who are just in dark rooms. You talk about the age of the rookie is now over, and but even still, even now in 2020, I have calls with a lot of clients who are in various levels of management and expertise, who, when I speak to them on a Zoom call, I'm greeted by just a black screen because they do not put their camera on. And I don't know, like, I feel like it's just not. Is it now considered rude to be on a video call and not enable your camera? Are we at that point now? Because I feel actually quite uncomfortable. Whereas give it a couple of years ago, I'd be like, okay, this person feels like they don't quite want to be on camera. And that's fine.
We used to make people feel uncomfortable, didn't we?
Yeah, well, because, and then now I'm the one that actually feels really uncomfortable talking to someone that doesn't have their camera. I don't know if you've come across this at all, but it bugs the hell out of me.
There's a couple of interesting things, though. One is, I think you're right. And if anyone is listening and watching this who is still hesitant about putting the camera on, then of course you can be hesitant. You know, you can do whatever you want in this life, but we all have a personal brand, which is how other people perceive us. And I think being able to present yourself well through camera in this day and age, in a profession, especially, is seen as the same as being able to show up into a meeting and not be a gibbering wreck, really. You know, it's kind of expected. But one of the things I notice is we're working quite a bit with the Americans at the moment, or people in America at the moment. The Americans are much more likely to not put their camera on than the British are.
100% agree with that. Massively agree with that. Yeah, I've got a lot of clients in the US, and actually the ones that come to my mind are the ones that don't enable their camera. And at best, you'll get they would have bothered to put a profile picture on, so you see a photograph of them. And actually, yeah, I agree with that. A lot of the US aren't, which is, I find it really baffling.
No, that surprises me. From the US,
it's strange.
Knowing, I think because they've got a really, my interaction with companies in the US is their work ethic is like something on another level. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that we work hard and are committed. So it just surprises me that they're
no, I've come across it a few times. Yeah, but also people locally as well just don't feel comfortable being on camera yet. And
So it's, I mean, it's interesting. It leads me to something that we're finding fascinating, which is I'm very fortunate. I've been able to deliver the live big work on optimism, goal setting, coaching, although, you know, the full spectrum through Zoom. And I'm running a program with a client now where we're doing a full program, a 9-month program, you know, all of it through Zoom. And one of the cool things about that is instead of having me for 2 days straight and then not seeing me for 3 months, they have me every week, you know, but for shorter periods of time. Yeah. So there's something really good about that you get. So it's definitely working. And then I've got another client where we're about to do a blended one. They want something in person and they can socially distance it and it can work. But previously that would have just been the workshop. And then you guys make it work. Now we're going to connect every week so we can really make it stick. But the other thing that's been interesting is the things that we were just talking about, these skills at connecting through the camera, we're starting to teach. And we have 2 programs, one which teaches more of the basics, and then one which is for the really senior people. And all of this kind of leads me to the story I was going to share that I just thought was fascinating. Was I was talking with a client last week who are a massive multinational corporation. And I won't say who they are. And what they were saying to me was, okay, so our existing clients actually are really liking the contact they can get with us through Zoom and Teams. We're finding it really hard to build new business because you just don't get the same rapport when you meet someone for the first time through the online. And Jeremy, I'd be really interested in your point of view on this. But the third thing he said, which was really fascinating, was we're being asked to pitch for work now, mostly through Zoom. And that's a very different experience. And he said they were pitching a couple of weeks ago for a piece of work from a big pharmaceutical that was worth £3 million. And he said their pitch at best was average.
Wow.
And he's like, we really need your help in helping us to learn how to be good through the screen, but also to work on this pitch with us. You know, how do we get our pitches really good? Because you've got to change the way you do it. A bit like your digital tonne story. You can't just do the same thing. No. You go, well, how do we create interactivity with the client through Zoom? How do we do it? So I think there's this whole other interesting thing for us to learn, not just the rookie mistakes, but also how can we be really, really good at this?
And I think, you know, I know you talk about, Shane, about the rookie mistakes, and we've talked about a lot of the hardware issues, but actually that's a fundamental thing, right? Because whether it's annoying or not, if you're delivering a pitch, you want to stand out over everyone else, and making sure that you're plugged into the Ethernet rather than Wi-Fi, making sure that you're using a decent camera rather than the built-in webcam. No matter how good your laptop is, that webcam's not going to be very good. You're going to look sharper and sound sharper and deliver your pitch much better and be much more remembered than other people, right? So it's about, I suppose it's about how you turn up.
Yeah, and also, like, you know, I talk to a lot of friends that run businesses, and similar to what you're saying is that they have to pitch for work now online, you know, via Zoom, and they need to develop relationships, you know, especially if it's like business development and stuff. And then I talk to them about, oh, okay, so why don't you, and you know, and then they ask me, hey Shane, you know, you're into the cameras and mics and stuff, you know, how much, you know, that camera you've got, I like that, it looks really good, look, you know, what's it cost? And then I tell them what it costs, and they're like, oh no, I'm not buying that. And I'm like, yeah, but how much what's that pitch you're going for? Oh, I'm going for a £10,000 project on Zoom. And I'm like, well, maybe you should spend that £500 then on a microphone and some lighting, so you could actually be the best person of yourself when you're pitching. And they're still like, no, I'm not. You know, my business I can't afford. Well, maybe they couldn't afford it, maybe they can. But I think COVID is encouraging people now, I think, to, if you don't start investing, even if it's small and incrementally, start investing in this stuff, because it's going to set you apart. You know, for those, you know, I think those that don't will fall behind.
Yeah, I think you're right. Although I think you can do it cheaper as well.
Oh, you definitely can. Yeah.
So, for example, just for fun, right? So I got that little halo light.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're cool.
Amazon. Yeah. It was like £39 or something. The biggest thing I did was move my computer around so the light in the room was directly in front of me.
Yeah.
And then I'm just stood in a corner that used to have a load of rubbish in it. And then I stuck a plant there.
Get the staple plant going. Big boom in sales on plants lately.
And bookshelves.
And bookshelves.
Have you seen Rob's bookshelf?
Yeah. And Rob puts a sign on it that says, "These are not just for show."
Yeah.
It's because these are real books. Every time I speak to him, I take the mickey out of him, because it was like, hold on a second, that's the first time I've seen that bookshelf there. It took me 2 months to just turn the computer that much. It was so stupid.
And actually, you're right. You don't need to spend a lot of money.
No, and I got a Rode Smart Lav microphone that was like £30 or whatever. And then I just found that jacking up things on boxes to put the camera at the right height really helped. And then like you guys said, plugged it into the Ethernet in. And then when I was doing presentations, the only other thing I'll say, that because I thought it was fun, and we've all got our own stories, haven't we, is I found I could run Zoom on my laptop. I could have the iPad running the notes of my presentation, and I could have my phone plugged in as the display screen.
You know, who you sound like.
Yeah, sounds like my office.
Him over here.
It's like mission control in my place. I've got a screen for everything.
But it made when I got that, it made such a difference, because I could see my notes and I could see all the people on the call, and I didn't have to worry about the screen they were getting. It made such a difference.
So I think the thing is, it doesn't really matter if you haven't got the budget, and people aren't necessarily going to have the budget. It's about going out your comfort zone. It's about experimenting. And you know what? We're not getting it right all the time. But you make those little improvements, you stop doing what's bad and continue doing what's good,
Mm-hmm.
and they're just marginal improvements all the time, aren't they? And that's kind of what we're doing.
Absolutely. And the coolest thing about doing things online as opposed to doing things in person is everything you do is recorded.
Yeah.
So it's very, very easy to give yourself feedback or to get feedback. Yeah. And so one of the big things we're teaching, and I've always taught this, but around presentation, is get feedback. Yeah. Get feedback. Everything you do at the end of it, scale of 1 to 10, how was that? What can we do better? And then watch your own thing, record it and watch your own thing back and go, what did I like? What did I not like?
So do you feel like you're turning a corner and now there's you've been able to commercialize what you're doing, or is this still a work in practice?
No, I absolutely. And again, Jeremy and Shane, I'd be really interested to hear your point of view, because it felt like we went through stages, you know, and Jeremy, there was definitely a stage for most businesses where it was managing crisis, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And so even for and so even for my little enterprise, it was not so much crisis, but managing, who knows, you know, it's all, and so, well, we'll just do this, we'll do this, we'll try this, we'll do this. And then it moved into this other stage where clients were like, oh yeah, can we buy that? Can we buy that? So you sell it, you know, you're doing things for money and you go, oh, there's income to be had here, which was interesting. And interestingly, I didn't really push it because I really like surfing. But my mentor, who's, you know, he's top of the game, really is top of the game, only works with the biggest companies in the world, only works with CEO level in the biggest companies in the world. He, interestingly, having done this for 30 years, he had his biggest day ever, sales-wise, his biggest month ever, and his biggest quarter ever in April, May, June, or March, April, May, can't remember.
That's, yeah, I think, you know, there is opportunity, and I think, you know, you just need to be brave enough to have a look and not look at everything in a negative way. And, you know, I guess, you know, taking extracts from Live Big, right? And just seizing what opportunities is available and learning how to pivot and navigate and tailor to your strengths, right? You know, it's doable for a lot of people.
It was a classic optimism moment, because the optimism tool we teach is two things. It's accept, it is what it is. Your reality is how it is. Not that you don't want it to change, not that it's acceptable, just this is how the world looks right now. And then shift, you know, what do you want? What do you want to think? What do you want to feel? What do you want to achieve? What do you want to do? And so this was a classic moment. It was so out of our control. We all had to go, okay, fine. No point, as you say, Shane, being negative about it. No point whinging about what's gone, what's lost, what can't be. It is what it is. What do I want? And you pivot. And the thing I was going to say that I was really interested in your opinion on is, so as I went into stage 2 and things started to work, and like Colin had, you know, that a big period of time, and I was going, oh, I can make a living doing this. It's kind of interesting. Then the summer came, and I don't know about you guys, I felt quite tired. It had been a lot of hustle.
Yeah.
And I was like, I just want to pause. And it felt like everyone paused over the summer a little bit. And then in the last 7-10 days, like right back in. Yeah. Like I did 5 proposals in the last 2 days. Feels like everyone's gone, okay, this is how it is now. Yeah. Let's just work with it.
Time to crack on.
Certainly, I think being in front of a screen all the time has actually been quite tiring. It's just working differently, having to adapt. Probably working the same hours, but just having to adapt to the working environment has actually been quite exhausting. Either that, or it's just exhausting being in front of a screen all the time. Yeah. So look, Shane, earlier on you talked about the North Star. Yeah. You've heard me speak on stage about the North Star, so something that's quite passionate to me. But I mean, you are the master. So, Stuart, can you tell us what you think the North Star? Why you think the North Star is important for a business or for an individual, and what exactly is the North Star?
Yeah, thanks, Vlad, because it's something I'm very passionate about. And imagine before sat-nav, travelers would look up to the sky and they would see the North Star in the sky, and they would know they were heading in the right direction because of how they could orientate themselves against the North Star. Now, the North Star was not somewhere they were trying to reach. It was just something that helped them set a direction of travel, to know that they were progressing on the journey in the right way. And I think that's what we need, you know, as companies, as teams, and also as individuals in our life and in our work. We need something that sets our direction of travel. And this is not a goal to reach. So it allows us to be more wide open with it. We can be creative. We can really come from our heart. We can say, what difference are we trying to make in the world? How do we want to leave the world after we're gone? What's the best version of us look like? What ding do we want to make in the universe, as Steve Jobs used to say? What's unique and special about us? What's our lane? How do we want to inspire people? What do we want to change about the world we live in? How do we want to impact the people that we bump into every day? A real why behind what we do, as Simon Sinek would say. And that allows us to do some interesting things. First of all, it allows us to set goals that are in line with that North Star. So we know why we're chasing those goals, not just because they were the things we thought of, but because they're in line with what matters to us. Secondly, it allows us to say no to things. You know, and Steve Jobs used to talk about this quite a lot. Focus is not about knowing what you've got to focus on. It's about being able to say no to the things that aren't the things you've got to focus on. So it allows us to say yes to some things, no to other things. And thirdly, it's where motivation comes from. Deep and lasting motivation comes from within when we're able to take action every day in line with something we deeply care about. So we need to know what we deeply care about. And that's what the North Star is.
Oh, that's
yeah, that's really interesting.
Beautiful bit. So you know what I'm going to ask you now, don't you?
Are you going to ask what my North Star is?
Oh, am I that predictable? Of course. I'm always on the other side of the couch. Now it's the other way around. I'm going to ask you. So, Stuart, tell me what your North Star is.
There's another way of looking at North Star, which maybe fuels this question, which is smile on. So often a North Star is a story, a vision of the future, but often the way to find it is goes, what are those things that make you smile? What are those things that really make you feel like you? So for work, my North Star is I'm traveling the world and making interesting speeches that fuel people into live big. I'm creating content online that fuels people into live big. I'm working with interesting groups of people doing retreat and more deep training formats that fuel people into live big. And then live big is this product, this piece of work that you can access through other trainers like Rob, through an online training system, through book, through app, through lots of different media. And so that's the North Star for live big. And it's that it helps millions of people. And there's a part of that, which I don't currently do or have any route to, which is that for every one person we help in the corporate world, we help somebody else for free. And I really want to make that possible. You know, that's part of the North Star as well. And we could be running big events or online events for people who really need help. People who are not so vulnerable that they don't have something about them to be able to think and act, but who wouldn't otherwise get exposed to these ideas. And then from that, maybe we can pair them with coaches. You know, people we've trained in the corporate world could be there to support these individuals. And then we can give them all the online materials for free. And then I've recently started piloting things inside colleges. I think the demographic of kind of 16 to 20 is really interesting. I think you've got enough about you to be able to get these kind of things. But if you can set a North Star for your life when you're 16, if you can set goals, if you can understand how your mindset works, it could be really powerful. So there's a whole other side of the North Star, which is about life and moving in the direction of my dreams in life. But that's the work side of the North Star.
That's really interesting. And I actually had a question for you as well. What would you say, what if someone couldn't describe what their North Star was? What if someone was struggling to identify what that looked like for them? And what tools could you perhaps prescribe or ways to navigate how someone might find it?
Well, I mean, that's the whole point of this work, really.
Right. It's all of it. I have to go on the course. Damn it.
Here's a credit card detail.
Buy the book, Shane.
I thought you could just point me to like a website or something.
Well, I mean, in a way. So
I guess it's like finding purpose in what you do, I suppose.
It is. So I think there's a big idea that drives everything. We have more capability. Then there's a power, and purpose is the power. So the first part of it is just emotionally and intellectually going, yes, I desire purpose. I understand the science if that's what motivates me. I understand that. So do I want it? Do I get it? Do I understand what purpose is? That's the power part of the work. And then the tool part of the work, that's the actual North Star bit. So purpose is the power. Do I have the skill, the understanding that purpose is important? And then the tool part of the work is the North Star. Now, North Star as a tool is a set of questions that walk you through trying to explore, or walk you through exploring what your North Star is. And they ask you some of the things I was just throwing off the top of my head there a moment ago, but they broadly fall into three categories. You know, they're broadly about what's unique and special about you or your team or your company. In what way do you want to, and not where you are now, but in your vision of your perfect ideal, how are you unique and special? They're secondly about experience. How do you want to feel? How do you want other people to feel? And this is the area I find most people find difficult to answer. You know, imagine articulating what the best version of your life looks like in terms of how you would feel each day. What would your emotional experience of life be? And then the third is, what do you want to achieve? You know, and this doesn't need to be big things. It really doesn't. This isn't about making people play for what we perceive to be big things. It's about making people play for what's within them, for our authentic, true life. I've always been driven by a phrase, which is that I'm petrified of sleepwalking into somebody else's life. I think it's so easy to just do what you're supposed to. In relationships, with friends, with hobbies, with where you live, with what you do for a living. And when I moved here, I didn't know anyone here. When I started my business, it was the start of the recession, and it was something I'd made up. You know, these weren't sensible things to do. But when you're paying attention to what comes from within, what does my heart tell me is right for me? Then that's where North Star comes from. So the questions start to draw that out of you gently, slowly. Maybe it takes time. And then there's a process you go through where you take the map of all the stuff that's come out when you've explored North Star and start to narrow it down into, oh, this is about me and how I feel. This is about family. This is about work. This is about customers. This is whatever the North Star is you're creating. And it slowly starts to take shape. And it's never finished. It's always in draft. So quite often I've worked with people, especially, who've said, I don't know what I want. And I think that's totally true for all of us at some stage in life. And if we're in the stage where we don't know, that can be a valuable stage. There's no necessity to know. But absolutely everybody I've worked with has ended up getting a good form of clarity after playing through this tool. So Shane, the simplest answer to what is a great question is explore and use powerful questions.
I think a lot of people struggle with, I think, you know, me, for example, I think I'm very good at understanding what my sort of medium and short term North Star is. But anything further out from that, it gets blurry for me.
Let's live coach Shane just a little bit on that, which is,
I need a bit of this. Give it to me.
So medium and short term, that's goals. That's not North Star. Because those are things you know you want to achieve, right?
Yeah.
North Star is dream. It sets your destination of travel. So it's not, where do I want to be in 10 years? Where do I want to be in 15 years? It's bigger than that. It's separate it from your goals and just start playing start playing with questions like, what makes me unique and special? What do I want my experience of life to be ultimately? How do I want to feel and how do I want to behave? What do I want to leave behind after I'm gone? How do I want to affect the world, the community, my family, those that I love? What do I want people to say about me? What does the best version of me look like? What's the best possible things I could do right now? Or not right now, but what's the best possible things I could do for my health, my physical health, my emotional health, my mental health, my spirituality? What's the best possible things I could do for people around me? And if you play with those questions without feeling like you need to know an answer, and without feeling like the things that you've got to think of have to be practical, because they don't. They can be anything. And then you start to listen to that inner wisdom that comes from within. And that's all you're after doing. Playing, questions are just provocation. Playing is the important bit. How do I know if it's right or wrong? You feel it. So the playing allows you to put stuff down. And what most people do, and I think maybe what you're doing, Shane, without me particularly asking you about it, is you're going, well, what's the answer? I don't know. The answer doesn't come to you like that. The answer comes to you by playing. And, oh, what about this? What about that? What about, I don't feel that. I really feel that. What's this? Oh, God, oceans. I love oceans. What does this mean? Why do I love microphones so much? I'm so alive around microphones. You know, what does this mean? And so it's a loss. It's something that for many of us is a lost I want to say skill, but it's not quite the right word, of being able to listen to our heart over our head.
So yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, there's a lot to take away there, and I think for a lot of people listening as well, I think there's some interesting questions that they could be asking themselves. And if someone did want to get a little bit more into this and explore Live Big in more detail, where could they go for this information?
Yeah, so on www.livebig.how, How, there is tons of content, like tons of video, tons of write-ups. We go into the tools, all kinds of things. And because when I built it, I really wanted to make it somewhere that not only would be useful for clients or prospective clients to see, but somewhere that could offer value. And then from that, the social media channels that it links to and the email list have got so much content to share. So whether that's for companies or whether that's for individuals feeling like they're drawn to do more, create more happiness or movement in their life, there's stuff in there that'll be helpful for anyone.
Brilliant. No, that would be really good.
As always, Stuart, it's been a hugely entertaining and incredibly inspirational listening to you. You're a very, very busy man, and we really appreciate your time.
Yeah, really appreciate hanging out with us. And of course, everyone watching, please subscribe to our YouTube channel and follow us on the various social media channels, and keep up to date with our next videos. And hopefully we'll be doing a nice course of these and rolling some stuff out. So yeah, make sure you follow along.
I love what you guys are doing here. It's fantastic, and it was really fun to share that conversation. So good luck with these as they roll out. I'm sure they'll be incredibly well received.
We appreciate your time, Stuart. Thank you.
Thanks ever so much, Stuart. Have a good day.